Hi Patricia, and greetings Adelaide. It's really great to be able to be in touch with you. We're based in Bergen here for a ministerial meeting. I actually would like to say a little bit about my organisation through some slides, so I'm going to pass straight over to Professor Colin Moffat, who's been in charge of one of our main products, the Quality Status Report 2010.
Because in Bergen here it is actually 7:30. I've still had my breakfast, so if you hear some rumbling, that'll be my tummy. It's really fantastic to have this opportunity to tell you a wee bit about our QSR, but first of all I thought I'd tell you a wee bit about myself. By way of introduction, I've sort of telling you a wee bit about where I've come from in terms of my science, my fascination, family, food and fieldwork, and the reason why I've chosen that is because as a kid I was so fascinated with science that rather than actually building models of boats or trains, I built a model of DNA in my bedroom. As far as the family is concerned, I think that the marine environment is so important. We want to ensure that my family in the future will be able to play in the sea. And the picture you see there is of my daughter sort of falling over, having been standing up in two canoes and trying to balance. Why food? I've not always actually been a marine scientist, and for a while I was actually a food scientist looking at contaminants in food, but ultimately I saw the light and moved towards marine environment, partly because of the opportunities with field work, because when you're out at sea, the scenery that you can get is absolutely fantastic. Anyway, what I'd like to do is tell you a wee bit about the vision that OSPAR has and what we've just recently delivered in terms of our quality status report. OSPAR's vision is of a clean, healthy and biologically diverse sea used sustainably. And in order to deliver that, we periodically have to do some sort of reporting. And the reporting that we actually done, OSPAR has a history of reporting through our quality status reports going back to 1993 when we reported specifically on the North Sea. But then in 2000 we produced our first quality status report, a holistic report of the status of the North East Atlantic. And in the map that's now before you, you'll see what is the OSPAR region, from the Arctic, the North Pole, right up there in the top of the world, right down to the Straits of Gibraltar and out to the Azores. That represents the area that we now cover. And every 10 years or so we produce a new report. And later on today I'll be presenting to ministers the QSR 2010. This is our holistic report of the status of the North East Atlantic, and as a result of where we have been in the last 10 years. So in terms of the QSR, in terms of how we got to where we got to, what you now see is a timeline of the last year or so. But prior to March 2009, we gathered all the necessary data. Within OSPAR, the 16 contracting parties of OSPAR, we've been gathering data, gathering information for the last 9 years through our joint assessment and monitoring programme and our coordinated environmental monitoring programme. We've also been developing new assessment tools, what we call background assessment concentrations, environmental assessment criteria for hazardous substances and ecological quality objectives for our biodiversity aspect. And we turned these into assessments, our working groups and our wider committees. And then we gathered all that information and we met as ASMO, as chairman of the Environmental Assessment and Monitoring Committee of OSPAR. I was responsible for pulling all this data together. Having done that, we put it out to internal consultation through our contracting parties, and as a result of that, we actually received something in the region of 1,697 comments back in relation to the OSPAR QSR. We dealt with these at our next meeting, put and produced draft 2 of the QSR, and as a result of that, we then underwent an external peer review of the system. Once we responded to that, we brought together the final QSR and signed it off at our meeting in The Hague earlier on this year, and handed it at that stage over to the editorial group, which in fact I had the privilege of chairing that group as well. So having produced all that and having taken through the stage to it, let me just tell you exactly where we are in terms of what the QSR actually is. The QSR is a package deal. It's not just the wonderful book that we have as the final summary document. The QSR is a combination of many assessments on fisheries, shipping, climate, the output of working groups in terms of assessments of eutrophication and hazardous substances. We've also done some special work in terms of special assessment of what we call our Utrecht output, which is ecosystem assessment, where we're trying to look at cumulative human impact. Also, I'm very excited by the fact that this afternoon, or actually just before you go to bed tonight, you should all go on to our EQSR, because this is going to be launched later today. The address is there before you, qsr2010.ospar.org, and you'll be able to see what we've done in terms of our reporting in respect of the QSR. The key thing was that we really did want to make our points. We really did want to get our messages across, and consequently the whole of the QSR is actually colour-coded. Our hazardous substances are red, but up front we've got what it is that we've found, what our main conclusions are, and also where we feel we should be going into the future. We want the whole thing to be very, very accessible, and consequently what we have is we have a table summarising the situation. The one you see before you, in fact, is the hazardous substances one, and what you'll see there is we've got a traffic light system as to where we are in terms of delivering the OSPAR strategies, how well we've done, and the situation that we're actually in there. But not only are we saying where we are in terms of whether we've got many problems, some problems, or no problems, we're giving a confidence assessment in terms of the situation. We're telling you how confident we are with our assessment. And I think that's very important, because we've got to be upfront in terms of our delivery. Not only have we got it for hazardous substances, but we have it for eutrophication. And what you see there is for Region 2, which is the Greater North Sea region. We have many problems, in fact, and we've got high confidence of that. Within Region 1, we're saying we've actually got no problems at all, but our confidence there is very low. Key thing also we want to say is what action is needed. Who needs to do what, whether it is OSPAR or our colleagues within the wider EU, or indeed the United Nations Environment Programme. We're highlighting who does what and where. So, quality status report. We're able to, within it, report some successes. And these successes, in fact, are showing that inputs of pollutants, especially to the coastal areas, have reduced quite considerably, whether it be in respect of hazardous substances, nutrients to our potential problem areas, or indeed radionuclides from some of our nuclear power stations. We genuinely are able to see that fisheries management has improved across the northeast Atlantic. We like our fish here, but if we don't fish it sustainably, we won't be able to eat it. And what we've found is indeed that discards have diminished. We've found through negotiations and collaborations with the Northeast Atlantic Fisheries Commission that illegal, unreported and unregulated fishing has decreased. We've also shown that our demersal fish community is actually recovering as a result of our management activities. The list of species and habitats that OSPAR developed in 2003 and added to in 2008 is a significant step forward, because what it shows is we understand some of the ecology that is there and how we should actually be dealing with it. And we're actually pointing to where the pressures and impacts are. We've tested our ecological quality objectives, these targets which we've put together which actually, if we attain the targets for all our ecological quality objectives, we should have good status right across our areas. For example, within the area of the contaminants, the reduction in the presence of tributyltin means that we don't have female dog whelps growing penises anymore. I'm glad to say that the concentrations of TPT have diminished, and so has the impisex within our doghouse. Not only that, but we've got and developed collective and innovative assessment approaches, which has really put OSPAR at the forefront of assessments of both our coastal and wider offshore areas. But there still remain many challenges. We found that within the Greater North Sea, 17% of our surface area still has problem areas. We know that in monitored sites, we still have unacceptable status for concentrations of mercury and likes of polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons. And there you see in Region 3, which is the Celtic Seas, the areas to the west of Ireland, west of UK, we've got 24% of our monitored sites still unacceptable for mercury and 61% still unacceptable for polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbon. What this also shows is that right across the OSPAR maritime area we have species under threat and we have habitats under threat, and we still haven't quite managed to attain the 10% protected areas. We also know that there's considerable loss of biodiversity, and this continues. We're also experiencing climate changes and the impact of increased concentrations of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, especially in the likes of the Arctic, where at the end of the day, ocean acidification is becoming an increasing problem. The reduction in sea ice and the appropriate habitat is the problem. And on top of this, we have increasing and new activities. We want to get more energy, whether it be wind, tidal or wave power, as part of our mitigation to climate change. Yet this is a new activity. Greater tourism is occurring in our coastal areas, putting greater pressures on the coastal areas right across the OSPAR maritime area. And we're finding that increased emissions from shipping is also causing us problems. So we've got many challenges remaining. What this QSR does is it gives us very clear direction to the revision of OSPAR strategies, and it has laid the foundation for our new joint assessment monitoring programme, which our ministers are going to sign off later today. It's provided us with a platform for a very important piece of legislation we have here in Europe. Europe have put forward the EU Marine Strategy Framework Directive, and OSPAR has the job of coordinating or monitoring, coordinating the way forward for the 16 contracting parties within the OSPAR maritime area. What this has also done is it's demonstrated the urgency and the need to tackle the impacts, especially in the high Arctic. And we're able to, through our QSR, highlight OSPAR's attempts to integrate the ecosystem approaches to actually measure the combined human impacts, because actually it's inherently difficult to implement the ecosystem approach and to understand how it should be measured. And ultimately, best practice, I'm sure you're all familiar with the UN assessment of assessments, and hopefully we've managed to deliver what is required through that. So, just in closing, I would like to encourage you all to be excited by the EQSR as I am, but not only that, to go in and to read about it, to go on to the website later on today and to dial up qsr2010.ospar.org and find out how we are managing not only our coastal areas but our deep sea areas, how we have developed new assessment criteria and ultimately taken it forward such that we believe that we will deliver on our vision of clean, healthy, safe North East Atlantic.